New details on a deadly airstrike that hit a Doctors Without Borders hospital in northern Afghanistan. CBS News senior foreign correspondent Mark Phillips joins us now from London with the latest. Mark, what do we know?
Well, new details, but in fact not too many of them. At a Pentagon news conference this morning, the Pentagon has in fact changed the U.S. story as to just what happened at this hospital in Kunduz. Originally, the story put out over the weekend was that it was U.S. Special Force advisors working with Afghan special forces on the ground in Kunduz. You'll remember the town had been taken by the Taliban last week, and Afghan forces have now moved in to retake it, although there's still pockets of Taliban in the town, and some pretty severe fighting has been going on. The first story was that U.S. forces working with advising the Afghans had come under direct fire from Taliban positions around this hospital, that an airstrike was called in, a C-130 gunship. This is a heavily loaded gunship with 50 caliber machine guns and other ordnance on board, and it effectively fired into the area around the hospital, apparently at that point aiming for these Taliban insurgents who were still in the area. Now the Pentagon has said that in fact it was not the U.S. forces working with the Afghans, but was in fact the Afghans themselves who came under fire, and they called in this airstrike to eliminate the position from which the firing had come, presumably again around this hospital. But there's still dozens of unanswered questions associated with this incident. The first one that the Pentagon was asked this morning, and to which it offered no reply, was whether there was any check in the process between the Afghan forces requesting U.S. air support and that air support being delivered, and secondly and significantly, what the rules of engagement are for U.S. air power involved in supporting the government in Kabul against the Taliban, whether there are any firing lines that are prohibited, and presumably this hospital, which was known to both the Americans and to the Afghans, whether that was in fact a protected area. Furthermore, the explanation that's been provided by the Pentagon, both explanations, the new and the old, and the Afghans, has not been accepted by the Médecins Sans Frontières, the Doctors Without Borders group who operate this hospital, or did until they closed it down. And that is that they had not only made their position known to all sides in advance of this incident, but that during the attack they put out a bulletin saying, "We are under attack, stop." And in fact, the attack continued and intensified from that point on, leaving the 22 dead, including some children and people in the operating theater. One of the allegations made, particularly in Kabul by ministers in the Afghan government, is that their forces were taking fire from within the hospital or within the hospital compound. The MSF denies this. They say their hospitals are weapons-free zones, that once anybody is hit and injured, whether they're a Taliban fighter or an Afghan force or a civilian, they treat them, but that they take great care that these areas not be considered to be points from which fire might come. They say on the night of the incident they had locked their gates, hunkered down, and then came under attack.
Critical questions yet to be answered. Mark Phillips reporting from London. Mark, thank you.